Okay, right. As Kate has said, we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another 60 minutes. This time we've got Lily Ray with us, and we've got my good friend Hans is back. And yes, we're starting out. And you know what? Hans has already told us where he's from. He knows I've got the standard question that I ask everybody. So, everybody, if you're just joining or tuning in, we've got the lovely Lily Ray with us. We're going to be not talking about in-depth SEO topics today. We are going to be talking about far more, well, interesting stuff. But we're going to be hearing probably a loaded question. But we're going to be getting to know Lily over the course of the next 60 minutes. So we'll spend the first 5 minutes just hearing from people. Let us know. Norma, you told us in Mexico. Let us know, everybody, what city you're from. If it's a city you think we'll never heard of, then country as well as city is totally acceptable. To your credit, Norma, I've heard of Mexico. Thank God. Love to know where in Mexico you're from. And then if you know you've got specific burning questions you want to ask Lily, especially the embarrassing and awkward ones,
I would love.
I'd love for you to put them in and let us know exactly what you'd like to ask Lily. So I know that. So we've got perfect. So
all my favorite places: Mexico, Germany. It's awesome.
Yeah,
showing up. I see Doc in Tijuana.
I like that.
Ukraine.
Anton,
Very
how
nice.
you doing, sir? Doc Sheldon, I think I would love to know where you're from. And then
we know where Doc is from.
We do.
We do. He's in Tijuana.
Oh, you did say that. Me too. Yes, you did. You did say that. There you go, guys. Lily is my game, evidently. So that's good. So yeah, as you come in, please let us know, as I said, where you're from. We've got Daniel from Tel Aviv. I always that in some culture, some countries, like the wink emoji is the same as kind of like the smile emoji. So for example, my partner is Italian, and I know that a lot of Italians use it in place of a smile. And I often say, well, wink means something quite different over messaging.
Yeah, I guess it depends where you're from.
It does. Hey, Sard, how you doing? Let us know where you're from, Sard. And we've got a load of people coming in. So we've got Andy from Alpharetta, Georgia. Where are you right now, Lily? Where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Northern California, just north of San Francisco.
Yeah. Okay, great. And is home Northern California, or are you you're with family for the Christmas period, right? Or not?
Yeah, so this is my childhood bedroom. So I guess according to some people, this could be considered home. But I've lived in New York for 12 and a half years, so that's my home now.
Okay. So this is growing up, and then New York is the new home. All right, that makes sense.
Indeed. Yeah.
Are you jaded yet? Some people get.
Yeah. 100%. New York has ruined me as of like everything, my outlook on life. I'm like, I came here a month ago. I'm like, oh yeah, like there's a way to be happy and hopeful, and like it's.
I did want to ask, and I think that from the people that I've interviewed, you're like the first. You're like the first kind of New Yorker. I want to ask about New York's impact on Lily, just as much as Lily's impact on New York.
It's bad. Bad impact. No, it's great.
It's so much bigger than London in terms of just the sheer scale. I'm from London. I'm based. I'm in London now. It is. Like just one thing makes quite a big difference in that the buildings there are like way taller, like way bigger, way we don't really have that in the UK in general. We don't have skyscrapers, so right. I'm getting distracted by the main point of the show, but I thought I'd put that in there. So
no, I thought they're the same size more or less, but maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that maybe the in terms of like size and population, maybe it's similar, but in terms of like the scale, in terms of the buildings, I go there and I do this, unless in specific places like West Village or otherwise, then it feels a little bit more like London, but a lot of it's quite different. So yeah, so there you go. Guys, we are at the 5-minute mark. I'm going to give it another 1 minute for people to come in and say their hellos. So BW. I don't know where AZ is from. Where AZ
Arizona.
is that Arizona? Okay, great.
So.
There you go. So yeah, BW, welcome from Arizona. Rohit, let us know where you're from. Parth, you're from Pune in India. We've got Hill Web Creations. Good to see you as well. Team Hill Web. And Nadia's in from Peru. Okay, we've got a Peruvian. We're in Peru,
wow.
Nadia. Yeah, that's cool. It's really cool. So I think I am going to let's needs a drum roll function, evidently, but yeah, I'm going to basically just get started. Anyway, so Lily, you know, so like you DJ, and which was the first passion in your life in terms of, so for everybody who's watching, Lily has had how many years have you been a DJ for? Did it predate SEO like by a fair shot or not? Or
I've been a DJ for like 7 or 8 years, and then I've been doing SEO just over 10.
Okay. And do you want to talk a little bit about your journey before you even got involved in, you know, within SEO, and what life was like before any of this?
Yeah, before SEO, I was like a rock and roller. I was a drummer, and played drums in 2 bands out here in San Francisco that did really well when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. So I like played on tour and like got signed to labels and did a bunch of video shoots and like big festivals, and that was really fun because I was under 21 years old and I was partying like a rock star with a lot of people here in San Francisco. So that was a blast. And then I was pretty academic as well. So I went to NYU and played in bands while studying at NYU, and eventually fell into SEO, and that kind of changed things.
How did you fall into SEO? I mean, let's kind of, because you as you said, you're at NYU. You had you know, clearly a strong academic background. Anyway, I think you got a family of like engineers, as software engineers. Is that from what I read? So like, how was drumming something that was like a childhood passion that you then kind of got into, progressed because you displayed some talent for it, evidently?
Good question. Yeah, so my father, who I think we'll talk about, is very technical. He's like an original Silicon Valley tech guy.
Yep.
I think he's watching from the next room over right now. So hi, Dad. And my mom and that side of the family is much more like musical and creative. There's some musicians, a lot of artists and painters and things like that. So I think I got both sides of the family.
Yeah.
I'm pretty technical and kind of nerdy. My brother Jeffrey is much more nerdy. He's also a web developer and started building websites in the early 90s and things like that. But I mean, he's musical as well, but I really got like the percussive drum side of things. So when I was like a kid, my mom took me to this literally like a hippie drum circle here in California.
Yeah.
I have pictures of it. It's amazing. I'll send the pictures out at some point. But
Please. Yeah.
It's like me as a 6-year-old girl surrounded by like congas and bongos and drum sets, and I have like maracas and like, what are they called, the castanets or something that you put on your hands. Like I was just like covered in percussion.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that day because I was 6 and I was like, this is what I want to do forever. I just want to like be surrounded by drums. I want to play drums.
Yeah.
And I did, like the next Hanukkah or whatever, like my mom got me a little drum thing, and then that escalated to like a rock drum set, which escalated to me being in rock bands. And DJing channels a lot of that too. So I've just everything associated to rhythm and drumming and percussion I've loved my whole life.
Do you do you still drum at all in general?
If you put me behind a drum set, I can still play very well. It's like riding a bike. Do I actively do it? No, because it's a really big production in New York. I actually have drums just sitting there collecting dust, which is kind of sad and tragic. It's my drum set from my bands when I was 16, 17 years old. And if you want to go play drums in New York, you usually have to like go rent out hourly space, or
maybe
a band has a monthly space. So I was doing that for a while, but like honestly, drumming in New York sucks. Like it's really cold. Like the rehearsal space will never be heated properly, and it's always cold in New York, so you're like kind of frozen, and you can't carry your drums around really easily unless you have a car. And it's like, it's actually the reason I got into DJing, because I was like, this is not a portable instrument.
Oh wow, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can. Did you? It's was drumming something? Did your transition, I guess, from moving out of, let's say, percussion and perhaps into DJing, did that also coincide with the move to New York then? Did New York have a big impact on changes in your life? Because it's a big deal, right? To move from where, I remember we were on a call yesterday, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of like in the middle of nowhere at the moment, which is great because it must be such an amazing place to grow up.
Yeah.
New York's different, right? I mean, it'd be good to kind of hear like what that was like and what that meant for your career as well.
Yeah, so I'm not actually in the middle of nowhere right now. Like I'm just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, so I'm pretty close to San Francisco. And I spent a lot of my adolescence like driving into San Francisco and hanging out there.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I need to be in a big city. Like this suburban thing is not going to work for me. And I actually only ended up applying to NYU for school. It was just one college. I'm like, if I don't go to NYU, I'm not going to college, because that's like the only place I want to go. But my mom and dad are actually from New York. So the rest of my family are New Yorkers. They're New Yorkers. We're all New Yorkers. They just had me and my brother out here, and we grew up as Californians, but like the rest of my family's in New York City. So my grandma is still alive. She's 93 and she's amazing.
Oh, wow.
She's in Queens. Yeah, same house for 60 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool to be out there with her. So, I think it's more like my family are New York transplants that made a life in California, but I've always felt connected to New York City. And as soon as I got there, I was like, yep, I'm home. This is it.
And do you like now when you kind of look back upon that journey from the drumming and NYU and falling into to SEO, does it kind of feel it's I'm trying to understand it, because it's such a big transition, which is obviously, I say obviously, like a question that often comes up a lot, but like where did that, I mean, when you were drumming, maybe a better question is what were you doing to kind of stimulate the clearly intellectual side of you? Was that like I was drumming and I was doing NYU, then NYU finished, and then like what kind of filled that gap after NYU?
I love these questions. These are such thoughtful questions. No one's ever asked me this stuff before. Yeah, it's funny. It's so I actually wrote my college application essay. You know how you have to write like a big essay?
Yeah.
I wrote it about the experience of playing in drums in bands that were doing really, really well while being basically like an overachiever academically. Like I had straight A's, I did all the AP classes and all that stuff. And for me, it was like a hack. It was like, okay, I figured out this whole adolescence thing, because if my dad's listening right now, if I get straight A's, I can go do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you can't tell your kid they can't go out doing whatever they do when they get straight A's. It's like doing your job properly. You know what I mean? It's like you do your job properly, you get paid, it's all good, So it was like a hack. And I was like, okay, well, and I also happen to like learning a lot, that helps. But for me, it was like, if I get really good grades and I have my act together, I can go be with, I mean, at the time I was in rock bands with two different bands. One of them was with three guys that were in their early 30s when I was like 17. So that was just a great influence on me. Yeah. So I was just doing crazy San Francisco stuff as a teenager. But then during the day, I was really focused on my studies. So it was like, it was nice for me because it was.
It sounds like a good time in your life. I mean, the way you speak about it, you're like, you know what, that was really, well, I guess just exciting time of your life, and it sounds a little bit more like you've settled a bit more in terms of, right, this is who I am now, this is where I'm doing, and is there a particular kind of moment where something twigged in you and the drumming was something that you felt maybe it's time to leave this behind? Because you talked about New York and kind of the weather, but I feel like that was a symptom of maybe something that had been coming for a little bit.
Yeah. I think of it as like, and I think this happened for a lot of musicians and just kind of to like nightlife in general. So for example, in the days when I was in San Francisco playing in bands and in venues really often, pretty much every weekend, the rock and roll scene in San Francisco was so awesome. You talk to anybody from San Francisco in the 90s to 2005 or so, 2010, and it was like the glory days. I mean, San Francisco's had plenty of glory days, but this was a really special moment in history where there was like so much cool music coming out of the city. So many, I mean, a lot of these guys, like I still know them. They're still trying to make it happen. They're still playing in bands and it's like not the same anymore. Like a lot of the venues are gone now. But what happened is like rock venues closed, and this happened in New York too. In the last like 10 years, a lot of the big rock venues have closed and they all switched to electronic. Everything's switching to DJing, everything, you know, where there used to be backlines with instruments, now there's DJ booths. And there's nightclubs. And it happened to me too, naturally, just in my own journey with like playing music, where I was kind of done with rock and roll. Like rock and roll's great, but I kind of outgrew it a little bit. And if you notice too, like a lot of the new rock bands are incorporating a lot of electronic elements into their music. And in many cases, the drummer will be the one that's like triggering some type of electronic sample in the music. So for me, it was like, I need to layer something on top of this drumming that makes it more interesting than just like an acoustic drum set. And I started to incorporate electronic elements like trigger pads and stuff like that. And that led me into the underbelly of New York, which is New York's electronic music scene, which is like, okay, wow, I've seen a real rave now. This is crazy. And it's been downhill ever since. It's been an interesting journey into electronic music ever since. That's when I became a DJ.
Wow. Do you, I mean, so I'm thinking about DJing and I'm thinking about SEO and trying to align perhaps. Do you see any symmetry, I guess is what I'm asking, between what you do by night and what you do by day? Or do you see Lily Ray, who, you know, is at SEO and working perhaps on technical audience or consulting, as an entirely separate kind of being? Is it kind of a Jekyll and Hyde type scenario, or do they kind of meld in some way?
It's so funny. So it's funny because I started to notice a couple of years ago a lot of parallels between my SEO life and my DJ life, but not in the sense of like producing creative things or like, you know, like making music. It's in the sense of the social atmosphere aspect of it.
Really? Okay.
For sure. It was so funny because it was like I was getting really deep into the like the techno world and the DJ world, and I was meeting a lot of my DJ heroes and I was getting bigger gigs, and it was like, oh my God, this is crazy. You know, I feel really lucky I get to meet these people, and you know, you're backstage, and it was just like it got really exciting for a minute. And then the same thing started to happen with SEO. Like the last couple of years, it was like, wow, I got invited to that thing, and like I got to meet this person. That person's my hero, and like I get to write on this publication. And so, in the sense of like, whenever I'm at an SEO conference, I feel like I'm at a DJ festival in many ways. Like, I'm like, oh, that's that person. Like that's that DJ, you know. Or like, I've had a couple experiences where I've been able to hang out like backstage at big festivals with my DJ heroes, and lately my life has felt a little bit like that in SEO. Like I still get super like anxious and excited around a lot of SEO people.
It's, I mean, what's interesting about both those, both niches, I presume, is like, you know, it's, I mean, they are both niches, right? In that you have to a degree, be part of the electronic industry or be part of the rock and roll industry to know who the players are. And that, you know, I think kind of by definition makes all of us fanboys or a little bit, you know, excited about the idea of, you know, I choose this space. Not everybody knows about it. You know, we're not talking about, you know, in Europe, you take, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, for football, who's into, you know, or you know, David Beck, whatever it might be, and like people know who these people are, and I feel that almost it makes it all the more exciting, because it's like, not only is it kind of, let's say, my little secret, when it's not really, they're obviously quite big niches, but at the same time, I can almost see where there's that parallel where you're like, you know what, everyone would think this is so different, but I'm at an SEO conference and I'm getting to meet people that, like, you know, have huge names, and it's crazy. And did it feel like you were meeting? I mean, it'd be interesting to dig into kind of that parallel, because, you know, SEO, a lot of people wouldn't call it the sexiest thing that you can do. But it's interesting the way that you talk about that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's totally nerdy, right? Like, it's like, who goes to a tech conference and feels like they're surrounded by, like, you know, celebrities? But what's cool about it is the people that I respect and the people that I've admired and looked up to, and now I'm lucky to call my friends, are brilliant minds, and they're creative and exciting. And, you know, I used to go to MozCon every year.
Yeah.
I guess I still technically go to MozCon every year. It's virtual last year and this year, but or 2021. But, you know, I would see the speakers on stage, and it was so thrilling when, like, you're, I don't know, 24, and you've been doing SEO for a few years, and you hear what these people are up to and the amazing things that they're doing for clients.
Yeah.
And it was, like, totally thrilling for me. So it still is. So, like, you know, being able to meet a lot of these people and share ideas with them and strategies has been, like, the biggest honor of my career. It's been so awesome.
Oh, wow. I get tingles just listening to it, being honest. I wonder if you do, Dad. I know that you're watching. What do you, if we bring it down to kind of a more in the weeds view of today, what are you excited that you're working on, or that you're reading about or learning at the moment? Like, what excites Lily Ray, like, today?
From an SEO standpoint?
I'll ask about both, but we'll begin with SEO, because I want to bring it back to the crowd, who probably know more about SEO than they do electronic music.
I was gonna say, it looks like a lot of SEOs in the comments. So what excites me? Well, anybody who follows me knows that I, like, pull a lot of visibility data, for better or for worse. I get in a lot of trouble for it too. But I like to see what Google's up to on a larger scale. So, you know, I work at an agency, and we have a lot of clients. So I have access to lots of different companies' first-party data. So it's not like I'm just shooting in the dark and just speculating about what's happening. I actually do work on many different clients, and I see what's happening with their sites. But I also like to go beyond that, and I like to see what's happening on a larger scale with industry trends and different categories. And I do find it pretty fascinating what Google's up to, just with the core updates of the past few years, because the ones before this, like the core updates that had names like Panda and Penguin and everything, like, those were pretty obvious. Like, okay, cool, I need to stop producing spam. I need to stop buying links. Like, I get it, you know? These ones have been, like, nebulous in a way. And it's been really fun and challenging for me to try to figure out what Google's doing. And I like to think that I'm onto something. And those of us who are talking about EAT have kind of figured out what they're up to. But I like to just keep an eye on that all the time, because obviously, you know, as recently as last week, Google continues to iterate on that. So it's been interesting.
It definitely is at the moment. I think that you know, I think there was someone's video who I was watching. I forget the name of the chat, but he referenced you as someone to read up on when it came to, as you said, visibility, and he was talking about what appeared to be kind of the biggest winners and losers of this update. And we've, of course, in the comments as well, there was an EAT mention from, because I want to bring it back to what you, who is it that just talked about EAT? You might find it before. Okay, so I think it was Rafi Cool. I don't know if I've pronounced your name correctly, dude. And Rafi Cool.
Cool name.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that's actually and you've got the appropriate picture for it, Rafi. Cool. Do you definitions are such a funny thing when you've got clear parallel interests in your life, you know. Do you consider, I mean, how do you define yourself? and have you been purposeful in shaping kind of your online brand and what you choose to kind of curate that's online about yourself?
Interesting question. I think it's funny because people think of me as the EAT person because obviously that's what I talk about the most lately. And before that, I was still totally obsessed with SEO, totally passionate about it, going to conferences all the time, like the little girl in the audience taking notes. Like, I just wasn't speaking. Like, I didn't see myself as a speaker. And that all changed really fast. So EAT was the first thing I ever talked about on stage at an SEO conference. And then before I knew it, it was like this rabbit hole. And I'll never forget, like, Marie Haynes and I met for the first time in, I want to say, like mid 2019, maybe early 2019. And it was just, maybe it was like just after the Medic update, August 1st of 2018.
August, yeah.
And she's like the EAT goddess. So I was like, that was one of the people I was like, oh my God, I'm meeting Marie Haynes. And we met and I was like, listen, I'm seeing the same thing as you. Everything you talk about on your podcast, like that's exactly what I'm seeing with my clients. I think you're onto something, like, and people at the time were like, EAT is not a big deal. And so she and I have both like cultivated, especially her, but like, we've cultivated these like almost brands about ourselves just in terms of what we talk about. But I do think that that it wasn't like intentional in terms of how I wanted to brand myself online. It's just something that I've become pretty passionate about. But I will say, like, there's other areas of SEO that I'm still very interested by. Like, I've always loved technical SEO a lot. So I don't just do EAT, I do a lot of different things.
I can imagine. I think that you of course reference. I think your father was a software engineer for Was it Sun Microsystems? I think. Yeah. So there's clear, and your brother, you were saying, is way more nerdy than you. So
he is.
So he probably makes fun of you, is what I'm hearing behind closed doors. Like, sis, people think you know your stuff. You don't know nothing.
Pretty much. Yeah, my brother's been there to help me when I have hard technical questions throughout my career. So thank you, Jeffrey, for helping me with this career, because I'll never forget being a little kid and like not knowing how to do anything in HTML and just chatting my brother, and he would help me. So that's been a really big help for me. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, we thank you. You are. You should get full credit for where Lily is today. I think that's going to be at least your subtext, I'm sure, Jeffrey. How much, thinking about, like, as you said, you're at a conference, taking notes in the audience. You were rock and roll changed, and you made a move to New York. You discovered electronic. How much of life for you to date has been purposeful versus kind of serendipitous? Like,
It's a great question. The music thing has been like the driving force in my life forever, and it always will be. I'll never stop making music, playing music, listening to music obsessively every day. I don't think that'll ever change. So that's just by design. That's just who I am. SEO turns out to be like this career and this skill and this passion that most people don't even know it exists. But I was really lucky to find it when I found it, and it's like it couldn't be a more exciting trade or like skill set for me to have. And I feel so deeply like passionate about the work that I do, and it's so rewarding for me. It's always fun, and it's almost like to a fault, because like really good digital marketers will learn like a little PPC, or they'll get into social, or they'll learn about programmatic. I'm like, I don't care about any of that stuff. Is that bad? Like, I guess I like social media, but like I just want to do SEO all day, every day. And sometimes that path is like, Lily, like you're like so focused on SEO. I'm like, I know, like there's other people that can do the other stuff. I just want to do SEO all day.
What do you say to your friends in music when they don't really understand your obsession with SEO?
That's funny. I tend to not talk to my music people about SEO, and kind of vice versa. It's just not something that either group of friends would truly understand.
Is it painful sometimes?
No, that's why I have like a day life and a night life.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
different groups of friends.
Yeah. And are there? Have you, out of interest, quickly, have you discovered anyone in the SEO community who is a big person who shares a love for electronic music like yourself that you could name and
Oh
shame for
God,
the
that I
audience?
can name. Dejan from Australia is another music producer, and then Dan Schur is also a music producer. And then I can't name names because it's mostly Twitter handles, but there's a lot of people that watch me live stream who love techno, and they'll
Okay.
write me like this morning on LinkedIn. Someone's like, "Oh, I used to go to raves in New York in the '90s." So, okay, Nick
Wow.
Ranger plays violin. Yeah, there's a lot of musicians for sure. As far as like electronic music goes, that's more
Yeah.
niche, but there's definitely people out there that enjoy SEO and electronic music.
Yeah.
But I will say that there's a huge overlap between being a musician or creative in some capacity and being an SEO. I've seen a lot of that, which is pretty interesting.
It is interesting. What do you mean?
Just a lot of people that play music in the SEO world.
Yeah. You're thinking of, for example, your brother and your father. Have they been in any way sucked in by your passion for SEO, and also have found themselves on forums or just Googling and reading stuff as a
That's so
consequence of your,
funny.
yeah?
I don't know that they've gone deeper than what I expose them to on a frequent basis, like constantly sending them things. So thanks, guys, for being bombarded with my work. But no, what's interesting is my dad's like a back end engineer,
Okay.
which I have his resume pulled up because I literally said, Dad, I need you to send me what you do because for my entire life, I've never been able to explain it. But he's an architect. He was an architect for Trusted Solaris, Solaris Trusted Extensions, Sun OS, Open Windows, Java
Gee,
Desktop, like back-end stuff
Christ.
that I've never
Yeah.
been able to understand or explain. And then my brother is a web developer.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. And then his wife, Anna, works in web accessibility. And I work in SEO. So we're like the
Wow.
dream team. Like the four of us, like just start our
Nail
own
it.
thing already. Um,
Gosh.
So what was the question? How? Oh,
Oh,
so
it
they
just,
yeah
yeah.
they get all the SEO information from me. I
Yeah.
don't think they look
Yeah.
beyond
They're
that.
like, they're like more than enough. More than enough.
Yeah, my
Let's.
brother's better than most developers, though I will say, as far as understanding SEO.
Well, Jeffrey, you have a darling sister to thank for that now. So it's a two-way street. I think that's the expression, isn't it?
Exactly.
I wanna take some of the questions that we've had, because I know that you guys have been asking them. So I'm jumping into the private chat part now, where Kate has thankfully put them together. So let's take Andy's question first of all, which is, what track will put you upon the dance floor whenever it's played? No matter what you're doing.
Shaka Khan, Ain't Nobody.
Shopper Khan, Ain't Nobody. I'm curious because I don't know the song. I'm sure
Yeah,
it's
you
very
do.
good.
You do.
Ah,
You
I
do.
do.
You
I
do.
do. I do. Okay. All
Just
right.
listen after. Look it up on
I
YouTube. You'll
will.
know
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Exactly. If someone can drop that in the comments for me, I'll check the comments and then I'll check it out. So thank you for that. That was I think someone's already put it in, haven't they? Andy just said
Amazing.
quality.
Andy, you made it here. He had a big decision to make. I'm honored that you're here, Andy.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're here also, Andy. So thank you for the good question, sir. And then we had Doc Sheldon, tattoos. Let's that's
Oh my
probably worthy.
goodness.
Yeah. I mean, you do. I've no doubt you. Well, I don't know how often you get asked this, but you've got how long is the arm tat? Could you do a little Yeah,
It's
that's
my
cool.
whole arm. Yeah, this is a new one.
Oh, that's cool, huh? How
My
new is the
newest
new?
and best. Since August.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then I
That,
got it touched up 2 weeks ago because I couldn't get enough. So that was another 7 hours of tattooing. This was 22 hours.
whoa.
Yeah.
Is your camera portable? Can you show it's probably got a lot of detail, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's just like it's pretty consistent throughout. It's the same pattern throughout.
Ah, it's impressive.
And the
Black
rest
ink is pain.
what's that?
The black ink, was that painful? The black ink particularly, that looks like it really hurt.
The colors don't change the sensation.
Okay.
And I would know because the rest of my body is covered in colors. I cannot expose that to your video right now. Yeah, that would be complicated.
Do you have more upper body or lower body in terms of tattoo coverage?
That's a very good question. I think in terms of raw coverage on my skin, probably lower, because my whole thigh is covered in tattoos. One of my thighs. And the back is covered. So
did a lot of it come during the? I mean, to name the cliche, obviously, I'm going to stereotype. Was it during your rock and roll days that you got a lot of it, or has it really been spread?
It's been spread. So my ex-husband is a tattoo artist. That was 9 years we were together, and so
well, that would have
yeah, slowly chipping away until my entire body was covered. But I had some before that, and kind of sporadic. I also have some fun ones that are really hard to see, like
is it like white ink or something? It is, isn't it? It looks like
this is
Roger. Yeah.
Can you see him?
Well, yeah, what is it? Sorry?
It's Roger from Moz. If anyone in Moz is sorry, SEMrush or Semrush, whatever you guys are called. Sorry. I'll get your logo one day. And then I have you can't see it on camera. I have one here too that's white. I have some white ones, so those are like Easter eggs.
Was there a reason for the white ones? I always think that they're ones that they're for you. I guess it's all for yourself. What do you think about the reason why people get tattoos?
Oh, I know all about this. I helped run a tattoo shop for almost 10 years. That was a fun experience. So it depends how many tattoos you have and how many hours of tattooing you've experienced. Most people who are naive and they've never had one before, they come in with these elaborate plans for like, you know, I have my grandma's handwriting here and like a flower that my father loved, and I've like put them all together into this thing that looks like crap, and like gives it to the artist, and the artist is like, I'm not doing that. That's bad. Like, that's not art. That's just your like chicken scratch. Like, you know, I'm sorry, but like, but it has so much meaning. Like, well, okay. So I watched, like, my ex had to deal with a lot of art that people insisted was meaningful to them and looked bad.
Wow.
That's what most people think about tattooing. Like, I have to get something that's super meaningful. When you start to get more and more and you realize it's basically just altering your appearance, like, it's like jewelry, you know? It's permanent jewelry. So the deeper you get into it, the more it's like, especially with large scale tattoos, it's like, how is this going to complement my physique? How is this going to complement my anatomy? How's it going to complement the colors that I wear? For me, I'm often wearing black. This is unusual for me to not be wearing black. But of course, I gravitated towards the blackwork artist, the best blackwork artist in the world, named Rox. And so it becomes less about meaning and more about aesthetics the deeper you get into it.
Okay. Lily's taking us on a journey, guys. So we've got the you have
tattoos as well? See, you know, then you're acting surprised.
Well, I'm acting surprised because I've not met anyone within SEO who's got tattoos. So I was curious.
Greg Giffords. Greg wins the award.
Does Greg win the award? Greg, if you're out there, come on so I can ask you questions as well. It'd be brilliant.
Seriously.
But I think that I was going to say some stuff, but then you run the whole tattoo shop for 10 years. I think that you probably know a lot more about tattoo psychology, way more than I do. So that intrigues me, because it's like, well, you know what? I've met a bunch of people along the way. You've seen work being put on people's skin probably day upon day for what, 9 years at least it was, I think, right?
It was a lot. And you can feel their trauma too. That's the crazy thing. So I would often sit in the tattoo shop for hours and hours and hours. And like, you can feel someone having trauma inflicted on them, which is like a sensory experience. And so like my dog, who my ex and I, we have joint custody of the dog now. She's a little therapy dog. Like, she's a little Australian Shepherd, and she would go up to people while they were getting tattooed and sit there, like, you know, like, providing therapy to people because she could feel their pain. So that was really sweet.
That's crazy. This is why I'm surprised. This is why that's
crazy,
incredible. Right? I've never heard that. You rewind time and visit your shop. So I think they were. I guess the final just comment on the is there a particular tattoo? I guess I should ask. It's a bit of a cliche question, but I'll ask it. Is there a particular tattoo that before it transcended into aesthetic, what was the tattoo that got you on the journey? Was it drunk after? Yeah. What was there one that was seminal in terms of putting you on that path?
Yeah, I think so. There's one on my lower stomach that is somewhat appropriate, but I can't get all my clothes off to show it right now. But it's a Calla Lilies by Man Ray, who's an artist that my family is related to. He's my grandmother's uncle, and he does black and white photography among a lot of different other types of art. And that was the best for me because I was like, you know, digging through the archives of Man Ray and discovered that he had a Calla Lilies series, which I was like, that has to be tattooed on me. That's awesome.
How old were you when you had that done?
21.
Nice, good age.
Yeah.
Can you get tattoos from like is it 16 and stuff? Is it like with parental permission? It's
depends on the state. Some states have parental consent. New York is you're not even allowed to get tattooed under 18 with parental consent, so it just depends on the state. Yeah.
Okay. So talking about like I'd love to. What pisses you off about what you do? I guess that's the question I want to ask, because there's a lot of positives here and it's great. I'm also curious about things that you find frustrating about the world of search, whether it's clients, whether I won't speak for you. What pisses you off, Lily?
The main thing that pisses me off is how many people are in SEO that are not willing to do the work and think that it's this like just hack gimmicky thing that you can do and manipulate the search engines and you know, obviously there's this underbelly of people selling links and who knows what types of services on Fiverr and all this stuff, and it just makes it really hard for people to take us seriously when we're doing good work and we take our work very seriously. I mean, I tweeted about this yesterday, but right now we're dealing with a client that got a manual action because the last 2 SEO agencies got them into that situation. And for me, what's frustrating about it, you know, it's great that we have work where it's like, cool, we can clean up the mess for you and we get paid. But like, what sucks is like, that's a business that invested whatever budget they had into something that they thought was right for their business because someone told them on the internet, some SEO told them that this is fine and it's not fine. And now like this has a real impact on their business. They literally probably won't have the budget to have somebody help them get out of the hole that they've dug themselves into accidentally. So that part of it sucks. And like the bad reputation that SEOs get as a result of that is what I don't like. I used to be black hat for the record, and I'm not anymore. And it sucks. Stop being black hat, even though some of you are my friends. I don't like it.
Is that what changed it? I mean, what did change it for you?
The Penguin update changed it.
Okay.
The Penguin update changed it because I was buying links. I was on Black Hat World every day buying links and ranking #1 for everything. And then we got completely destroyed. The company that I was at got destroyed. And I was so naive at the time. I didn't even know I was really doing anything wrong. I thought I was just doing SEO. But it was the same situation. It's like, wow, now our website's wiped off of Google. What do we do? You know, and I had a stack of papers this big that I was going to do a reconsideration request of all the links that we ever got. And I ended up, this is bad, but I ended up just leaving the company and going somewhere else.
Sounds like it was a sinking ship. Yeah.
No, I'm just over it. Now I'm like, I don't ever want to do that again. It sucks. It's not ethical, you know?
How did your clients respond to that?
So at the time I was in-house at a company where like, I don't feel too bad for them because they were all about short-term gimmicks and hacks, and that was like the whole premise of the business. So I don't feel too bad, but I've never done any black hat SEO since at all.
Okay. No, it sounds like it's been, in a way, a really powerful experience for you. That do you feel that when you look at the progress that you've made, the rapid progress, has it then equally come from challenging moments like that? Was that a pivotal point in your SEO career? And is there like another one that you could reference that also led to kind of, you know, your well, I mean, there's Lily's growth as the media perceive it, but then there's things that have probably been really powerful for you that, you know, what was a moment that was a big game changer for you in your journey as an SEO?
Switching from like the black hat situation to an agency was one. And that's when I started to learn how to do things properly. Before that, I was just teaching myself. And then I had a really good boss and mentor at my last company named Brandon Hegel, and just learning from him was really pivotal for me. He gave me the opportunity to be almost always like one step ahead of what I thought I was qualified for in terms of my career. So like when I was 23, 24, I was like sitting in the room with C-levels presenting SEO strategies to really big brands. I was like, wow, I don't really know what I'm doing here. But then what was cool was like, I started to realize I do know what I'm doing. Like these guys don't know how to do SEO. I know how to do SEO. So that kind of pushed me really fast into, I became director when I was like 25 years old. And the 3 people that were director before me were all men in their 40s. So that was an interesting experience. And the last one was like, I'm taking another job or whatever. Lily should be director. And I was like, what? Me? So I've been SEO director ever since. So I think like people having faith in me and giving me the opportunity has been I've been really lucky.
Has it been a challenge? Are people sometimes surprised by meeting a young, vibrant woman with tattoos, the director for their project and their C-suite? Has that ever been a challenge for you sometimes? I imagine like a 60-year-old dude who looks like me might be like, what? This is not who I was expecting to meet. Like, has that happened or not really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, in the beginning it did. And a lot of it was like how you carry yourself too. So I used to get so nervous. I remember like when I was, I don't like that age, when I was 23, 24, I was going to these meetings with C-levels. I was like petrified. Like I would walk in the room and I was like, I think I'm going to pass out because I have to present 3 slides about SEO to that guy. Like that's a CEO of a big company. And it's little by little, you, at least for me, like you start to become more confident in what you know. And now it's fun. I'm like, I'm covered in tattoos. I don't care. Like you don't know anything about SEO. I'm here to tell you. And guess what? They don't care because you have the knowledge and that's what they're paying for. They don't care what you look like. And it's been really nice because early in my career, I was like, I don't want to get tattoos or be myself because the people at work will judge me, and they don't care. They just want the information.
How do you? I'm curious. Like we talk about, you know, the C-suite element. What has been like the political transition from being in an environment filled with musicians and understanding perhaps how the game is played, let's call it the game for want of a better word, versus being in a room full of SEOs? Is it very different? Like, what's it like?
A room full of SEOs. Those are the days. I feel like it's been forever. Yeah, it's pretty different. I mean, so generally speaking, if I'm in a room full of DJs or I'm in a room full of musicians, I'm probably at a party, in a bar, in a nightclub, in a festival where people are intoxicated and dancing and having fun and relaxed and whatever, you know. So that's one side of people. Usually in the room with the SEOs, it's hopefully more intellectual. I mean, sometimes we let loose a little bit, but you know, it's people like debating things and sharing experiences, and it's a little bit more professional. And yeah, I love both sides. I think it's really stimulating and wonderful to be at SEO conferences. Even these virtual things that we're doing, it's still really awesome to network with people. But quite different experiences. The two things.
What was the last conference that you went to out of interest before the madness of COVID?
In person, it was SMX West in San Jose. It was in February of this year. Yeah.
Okay. How is it where you are out of interest with the whole COVID stuff? We've just gone back into lockdown again in London after apparently, after opening up.
Technically, where I am right now, California is not doing great, whatever that means, because here in California, you just kind of like, at least in my experience, you just kind of hang out at your house and it's not a big deal. So I don't really see it. In New York City, where I live, it's bad. I live in Brooklyn, and I live in one of the worst parts of the city for COVID, because there's a religious community next to me that doesn't really abide by the rules, and that's bad. So like in March and April, it was just like sirens constantly, couldn't sleep.
Wow.
And from what I understand, I haven't been there in a month, but from what I understand, it's back to those levels. So I'm not looking forward to going back in 10 days. Yeah.
That's when you go back in 10 days is what, the 20? Well, maybe.
Christmas.
Are you not with Dad and Jeffrey for Christmas, or are you back in New York?
We're Jews. I'm traveling on Christmas because I'm a Jew. Like, it's like the best day to travel. We'll see. I have a feeling that everybody else is on the same page as me. It's going to be totally crowded, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wow, we are coming into, everybody, the last 10 minutes of the show. And I know that there's a bunch of comments because I've been sat in the private section. So everybody, just broadly speaking, we've got 10 minutes with Lily left. So if you've got specific questions, then please do ask them. Otherwise, I'm gonna kind of take point and keep being basically greedy and continue asking the questions that I'm interested in asking. So guys, I will give you a moment. What I wanted to kind of ask, like, do you what's it been like for you this year? Because you're someone, as you said, that being a musician fundamentally and being someone who's an active conference attendee, how has a year of doing not only a load more remote work, which I think a lot of people potentially do adjust to because the nature of the work we do, of course, is digital, but you're not really meeting anybody half as much, are you? Has it been a challenging kind of year for you in terms of as a person, aside from like business, etc.?
Oh yeah, it's been a super, super challenging year. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, everyone's having a horrible year, right? For different reasons. And there's really no like, woohoo, 2020 was awesome. Like, regardless of your situation, it's just been horrible, right? Like, I think most people like to connect with other people, and I'm very, very, very extroverted. So I dove into getting divorced, living alone, and the pandemic all at the same time. Yeah. So that's been half awesome in the sense of like being independent and kind of being by myself for the first time in my entire adult life.
Yeah.
And then half like not the way I envisioned starting a new life,
Yeah.
just like being with myself all the time, which is one of the reasons I'm here right now. I'm like, I just needed to be with some other people because it gets crazy. Like being in a studio in New York this whole year is like, can't do it anymore. Yeah.
I guess it has to have made you stronger, I guess, because the only thing to do is that whole cliche, which is so BS, with like, push through, etc. But how do you feel? Like, it sounds, as you said, it's been a difficult year for many reasons, and it sounds like you're moving towards the other side of it, and it's there's no question there. Just really that yeah. I can only imagine how challenging it's been with all of those things that have happened. And now Doc Sheldon has asked a really great question because it's new times for Lily Ray. So what's on the bucket list? Now as you said that your circumstances are different for the better, of course, which is why it's all happened. What's on the new list? And was the tattoo one of them?
First of all, I just want to give Doc a shout out because Doc is so awesome. And have we even met in person? I don't even know. Like, it's so crazy. We're like such close friends. We haven't even met in person. But he comes to all my live streams and like sits there the whole time and listens. And he's like, oh, I love this track. I'm like, how cool is it that you come to all my live streams? He's such a big supporter. I love you, Doc.
Yeah.
My personal bucket list is, well, I envisioned the next several years of heavy, heavy traveling, potentially living in other places. And the way I'm planning it out right now, I'm already figuring out some like COVID friendly ways of potentially just getting out of the US for a little while and maybe spending some time abroad. So hoping to start that in 2021.
Do you when you look at your kind of career across everything you've done, what is there one thing that you think that you didn't do that if you had would have had a profound impact upon your career?
I honestly can't think of anything.
Mm.
I don't have any regrets about things I've done or not done. I feel really, really solid about how things have panned out. And yeah, I could have like taken some coding courses and paid attention in Python class. I probably should have done that. Literally, my dad helped me with my homework, so thank you, Dad. But no, I don't have any regrets or anything I wish I had done differently.
Yeah, yeah. And what you know, we're obviously coming to a new year, and traveling, of course, as you said, is a big part of the agenda, which sounds bloody awesome, by the way. Come to London, of course. You've probably been here, of course,
I'm
but
gonna
come
come to
again.
London for
Yeah,
sure. It's gonna
yeah, yeah.
happen.
What is there something that you are also interested or looking to develop or to do that excites you when you think about you know, that bucket list, if you will?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. Like, where do we go from here? So there's been some work that I've done, and I have a new article coming out on Moz at some point when I can write it, pull it together, about like how people feel about Google search results and how much they trust the search results. So I've done that twice already, and I have some new survey data. And I'm really interested in this just discussion about like Google presenting facts and knowledge to the world and how much the world takes that information at face value and believes in it, which is, you know, goes hand in hand with EAT. So I'd
Yeah.
like to go deeper in that kind of rabbit hole of just understanding like the impact that search engines are having on society.
Gosh, yeah, absolutely. That sounds brilliant. That sounds bloody brilliant. I think that we're coming obviously into the last couple of minutes, and I just listened to in the time that I've had an opportunity to sit down and kind of get to know you more. What a blessing it's been, huh?
Yeah.
What an
Thank
absolute blessing! Like the journey, it sounds really like it sounds so exciting and full of like interesting twists and turns and a combination of intention and serendipity and like it just sounds like it's been a really fabulous journey so far.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me and you know today, and thank you for everybody that's supporting me. And you know, to your point, it's been like completely surreal the past couple of years. Completely
Yeah,
surreal. It's
yeah,
just every day is surreal right now, and it's such a huge honor that people admire my work and are finding it helpful, and that's again been like the biggest honor ever for me. So thank you
ah
all.
guys, this has been 60 minutes with Lily Ray. It's been awesome. No, honestly, it's a really unusual and bewitching story. I think when I listen to you know, just snapshots effectively of your journey. You know, I'd love to kind of come in and kind of do it again, but you know, there's a certain kind of like magic, I think, to the journey that you've taken, and these two seemingly disparate worlds that come with Jeffrey and Dad and Mom, the you know, just make for really just, you know, amazing conversation. So thank you for being on the show, everybody. Thank you for being part of the journey. Andy, Mustafa, everybody. Kate on the on the buttons, and of course, most especially, thank you, Lily, for taking 60 minutes to talk to me and you know, the crowd at Semrush.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the great questions. Lots of fun. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.